home on the range, where I can run my chaos and no one complains. Well, hello all my chaos bringers and delinquents, and welcome back to the Gentleman's Chats. I'm your host, Rehash, and today we're going back to something a little bit more wholesome. Back by popular demand, here's solo farming in the tower. Hey, it wasn't popular demand. It was a 25% split between that and Spacebug King. Hey, don't get upset with me when you're the one who lost the coin toss. Besides, we know the real winner of that poll was Marvel movies, with over 50% people voting for it. But we can only do those so many times because it takes so long to draw them out. So, we gotta fill in the blanks in the meantime. So, why not go with something that we know works? So, here's solo farming in the tower. The chapter begins where we last left off. The little red bear had come home and brought Mama with him. So, Park Sejun believes he is royally fucked. Yeah, the last time these two were in the same room together didn't end too well, so Park Sejun imagines the worst. Until the tower manager informs him that the bear isn't here to fight. In fact, it's here on friendly terms. He just wants to feed its bear cub. He even offers to take Park Sejun out of the cave as a peace offering, to show no ill intentions. Wait, so we're finally getting out of the cave? We're finally going to see what the floor actually looks like? Hallelujah! Farm expansion! Might be a little too early to celebrate. We don't even know what this floor looks like. So with rabid encouragement, Park Sejun takes the bear on its offer and he lifts him out of the cave. He gives one last look at his farm that he grew for several months now, as he finally gets to look at the outside world of the tower. And props to the artist. This looks gorgeous! It doesn't really translate well when we show just a screenshot of it and we're just looking at it and we're completely in the way, but it really does look very beautiful, a very beautiful landscape, a 10 out of 10. Well, as Park Sejun takes a full view of everything around him, he notices a strange light in the distance. He asks about it and the tower manager says that's a waypoint, or a way for him to go from one floor of the tower to the next. Or in his unique case, a way to break out of the tower. Not that the tower manager would ever permit him to leave at this point. She is crushing way too hard on him. We're not suggesting that she's gonna purposely hold him against his will. She's already purposely holding him against his will. So Park Sejun suggests to the Crimson Bear to help take him to the waypoint, but she refuses. Mostly because the waypoint is in an area that is outside of her territory. The Crimson Bear's territory is the forest, but that is over in the grasslands that is run by another super monster like her. So it's less that she doesn't want to and more of a political dispute. But hey, Park, take the win. You're out of the cave. Sejun's animal friends follow up and they do a little bit of time of exploring. But then Mama Bear comes around and says, time to feed my kids. And Sejun says, yeah, you're right. So he grabs some honey and feeds it to the baby bear. But this is when the tower manager interjects, translating for the Crimson Bear. The Crimson Bear wants Park Sejun to effectively babysit her kid and feed him honey and other things so he can grow up big and strong. Just one day in Park Sejun's garden, after all, was able to increase his size several folds, and she wants him to continue growing up. But she's not willing to let him do it for free, so she's willing to officially recognize him as part of her territory and keep other monsters from invading his farmlands, which to me actually feels like a fair trade. And Sejun takes her up on that offer, but also finds out that the mother bear here has been starving herself just so her baby bear can eat because there's not enough food to go around. So this really does help her out in the long run, but Park Sejun won't allow her to starve herself anymore. So he calls forth his rabbit and animal friends and gets to work on a cooking session. What? No, don't let this man cook! I don't want to be hungry looking at anime food! I have prepared for this moment, for I have brought chicken sandwiches! So with the rabbit's assistance, Sejun manages to make a giant feast for Mama Bear and Baby Bear. And it's not only a lot of food, it's also delicious. The mama bear immediately thanks Senjin and the bunnies by giving him the most realistic bear hug I think I've ever seen. And then we cut to our little girl, the Black Dragon. Apparently, she intervened with the bear from the start, because the bear wanted to approach Park Sejun with peaceful intentions right from the get-go. But yeah, things would have went sour without her translation abilities. So, overall, she takes credit for this massive win for Sejun and his farm.
But enough about Sejun, let's check back to see what Theo's up to. Or rather, his current stalker. It seems as though Theo's rise to stardom, just completely out of nowhere, has caused some rifts and waves in the Bureau of Ethical Trading. And they're investigating Theo for being a corrupt traitor just as much as they're investigating the Goblin. He lives in their heads rent-free, folks. Even when other cases of high-profile artifacts and items go missing from warehouses of big business bureaus, she can't even be bothered, or even barely gives it a glance. But the moment any information about Theo pops up, it's all hands on deck. She immediately dons her noob disguise and goes to work to hunt down our precious orange boy. Get your pirate flags and rum, because I sense a new ship being built here. You shipping trash! Hey, you're the one who simps for insects! Well, we soon cut to a few days later. Sejun has gotten used to his new big mama bear, acting not only as a babysitter, but also one of her subordinates, feeding them, while she drives away any hostile forces or predators that come threaten the farm. So now they can finally officially expand outside, though things aren't looking very good at the moment, as the soil is very dry, rocky, and they'd have to do some massive work in order to get any kind of fertility from this ground. But thankfully, they have one asset that they didn't have before: child labor force! That is certainly a way to phrase it, but yes, the Crimson Bear Cub definitely has the build and the strength to be able to till the ground in order to get to the rich soil underneath. But even with that, they still have a lot of work to go through. So they decide to plant potatoes, since it would be the simplest and easiest thing to plant in a very, very dry environment. Although I'm not entirely certain how many they can realistically plant when they have a little bear who thinks it's a game digging for treasure. I wonder where I could get a free child labor force for my garden. No, we are not making that joke. That is not a joke we make here. We later cut back to the 38th floor, where we meet, once again, Theo running his gambit, selling cherry tomatoes as if they were Hot Pockets, though he is a little upset that the big CEO didn't show up to give him all of the gold, and he actually made less gold than what he did before because of it. He wishes he would come back, calling him a sucker. But Theo does run into Kim again. You know, the guy who's the leader of the best guild in Korea. Well, he's excited to say that he completed the mission, but he also has another small favor: a quick photo op in order to show off to his daughter. And Theo agrees. He even has some spices to exchange with it. Cut to a little while later, and Theo is upgrading his bag and storage so that he can bring more cherry tomatoes the next time. But the smell of fried fish just tantalizes him, and he can't help but get a slice. And then he runs into what we know as the Bureau Investigator disguised as a noob. Theo shows just how based he is and immediately offends her, calling her a pushover, but she still tries to act the part and say that she wants to repay him for his kindness for helping him out with that goblin earlier. But he declines, saying that he doesn't want to deal with that type of shit. But she doesn't give up. She immediately tries pestering him, saying that it's an honor to be able to return the favor, I guess? But Theo still declines. Realizing that Theo is just turning her down left and right, she resorts to woman pity. I'm not sure how to describe this. Oh, this is when they start crying and trying to earn pity points. And then they play into the ego, saying that he's so smart, so talented. And unfortunately, this strategy 90% of the time does work, as Theo folds and allows our investigator to watch the master at work, so she can get what she wants: info on his training style.
Oh, she plays dirty. Yes, how dare she manipulate him using the most common and age-old tactic of complimenting him and stroking his ego to make him feel good.
Yeah, I haven't had a compliment since... I'm
sure that there's, Well, now I made myself sad. Why were we even going with this joke? Well, Zeoth is definitely getting off on the idea of bringing Theo to justice, only for her to realize slowly but surely that he is an idiot who fails upwards, but not an actual criminal, as they go to a local smithy. But not just any smithy, a run-down junk store smithy. And she is confused.
She does attempt to try to make sense of it, saying that he's just going to buy these cheap items and sell them later, but that's not why Theo is here. She even suggests going to a place with a little bit better items to sell, but again, Theo's thought process is, give me a discount. I don't care if this is already a discount place, give me that sweet, sweet, juicy discount. And her action is just, that's it? That's all? That's all he does? Oh, nothing beats that instinctual euphoria that comes from a character realizing that they overestimated the character that they've been obsessing over this entire time. Like, no one this stupid could possibly exist, so they must be a criminal mastermind pulling the strings of his puppets from behind the scenes. But the real surprise, it actually works. He gets a discount, and then he gets another discount, and then he gets another discount after that. And soon, this dollar store level gives him a 50% discount on one item. And she is beyond belief and impressed at the same time. I bet she doesn't even know how to feel. That obsession she had over him looks pretty silly now that you put it into context. But then when it comes down to actually buying something because he demanded a discount without actually, picking anything out. So he goes looks through the junk and pulls out a random straw hat. I mean, in fairness, it is a really nice looking straw hat, and you could totally cosplay Luffy with it. But a discount of that magnitude, and all you pick is a straw hat, even she's bewildered by this judgment. But Shopkeep just wants to make a sale, and Theo keeps saying that she's getting in the way, and she's forced to apologize, even though she doesn't understand what she's apologizing for. And so Theo leaves with his new straw hat. So after a job well done, he leaves with the hat, and then he tells the security girl that it's time for them to part ways, for his benefactor calls. And he walks off with a skip in his step and a song in his heart. Realizing that she's not going to get any more information today, she also decides to part ways, thinking a little bit more ill of Theo because of this ridiculous method. But then, something catches her eye. The straw hat. Looks eerily similar to a straw hat that's on a piece of paper that was one of the high-grade items reported missing from a warehouse. But even she doesn't believe that that could possibly be it. If that hat really is all that important, then Theo must possess some kind of devil's luck. He managed to run into Sejun, who just gave him the most popular item in the tower that he can make a fortune off of. He managed to find that nameless knife that is super powerful, and now he finds whatever this straw hat's power could be? Yeah, but honestly I really do enjoy characters whose only redeemable quality is sheer dumb luck. We cut back to Sejun, who's currently harvesting carrot seeds. With the seed store itself being so random and unreliable, I guess it only makes sense that he'd have to resort to gathering whatever seeds he can from his own crops. As he harvests a cherry tomato, he notices that his harvesting skill has leveled up and gained additional effects. So it's possible for all of his other effects and all of his other abilities to branch off to have more unique skills, if he levels them up further in the future. But that'll have to be for a later date. For now, it's time to eat. And he cooks up something special for Mama Rabbit, who is very visibly pregnant.
we're going to have more babies!
That's not all, folks, as Sejun is now going to feed the bears. And apparently there's a new cliffside pulley system that was developed that the baby bear is able to pull up Sejun and extras out of the cave whenever Sejun wants.
I guess even though that he wants to expand his fields to outside of his little hole in the ground, it also makes sense for him to stay in the hole in the ground as his main base of operations due to its natural defenses around. But even still, he needs a more convenient way than constantly relying on Mama Bear to lift him out with her paw. So they set this up, so that they can hoist a pulley system whenever they want.
Well, Baby Bear wants snackies from Uncle Sejun, and he provides. And they are delicious as always. But then Baby Bear gets an idea, and he runs off with the last roasted potato, and immediately buries it, hoping that it will grow.
Oh my god, that is so adorable. That is genuinely cute. I mean, it's a roasted potato, so it was never going to grow, and Sejun explains that. And then he sees dead fish. Buried. All over the place. That is even more adorable.
I want to make fun of the baby bear for this, but in the same breath, he's a baby bear. He probably doesn't know any better. And plus, we are literally in a magical tower where possibly anything can grow. So I wouldn't put it past there being a rotten, roasted fish tree.
We finally cut back to the beehive, where we see the Poison Queen Honeybee staring very intimately at an egg. But we're just going to have to see the significance of that egg until next time. Oh yes, that's right, audience. Cry and weep at this cliffhanger. I want to see your agony and...
You know they could just read it themselves.
Shh! Don't spoil it!
But regardless of Rehash's being evil dick, these chapters were quite an interesting read and quite an enjoyable one at that. It seems as though any issue with the bears has been immediately solved, and now there are allies.
It was also incredibly enjoyable watching Zarath, the leader of the Bureau of Trading Investigation, make a complete nothing burger out of Theo, thinking that he's some sort of evil super genius trader mastermind when he's actually just a stubborn idiot. And she still thinks that he has some sort of manipulation up his sleeve, despite seeing his idiocy at work. He's not an evil mastermind, he just has a talent for failing upwards and being overconfident about it. And of course, baby bunnies! We're going to get more baby bunnies soon!
But then there's the mysteriousness of that egg.
My guess is that there's going to be a new queen bee showing up. But how is our previous queen bee going to take it?
You're gonna have a new girl to simp for!
Hey, I am not a... Damn it. Why can't I ever just be chaotic? Oh, but until next time, I'm Rehash, the stirrer of chaos.
And I'm Gent, and we'll see you all next time!